Georgia's got the best chance right now.
Okay. I love the Dogs. I've gone from a Dogs doubter to a Dogs believer because they came out in that football game against Tennessee and they looked like a team that was like, you know what, we might have to put up 50 this game. Let's do it.
There's also enough. I'll say this too, and Trevor, you've been there. We've been there.
Mm-hmm.
There's, even though those 7 or 8 NFL players off of defense left last year,
yes,
there's enough guys in that locker room and that coaching staff that have been in that position. Tennessee has not, right?
No.
So to get to number 1, there's a lot of hoopla. Hype's doing a great job, right? Doing a great job, but you're managing something that nobody at Tennessee's seen since who knows when, right?
2007.
Yeah. So you're managing something that's different with a team that's never been there and guys that don't understand what that takes. And don't think that Kirby didn't take the opportunity to tell his team, hey, look, you know what? This is a slap in the face. We are the defending national champions. Screw these guys. And they played that way last Saturday.
I agree with you. I think they did play that way. I think that there was some merit to them not having been there, so they didn't feel the weight.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The problem was Georgia just decided, hey, we're about to come out and whoop that ass.
That's it. Exactly.
And I think but the part what for me was the aggression on offense. And Trevor, you hop in because the aggression that Georgia showed on offense, that's what did it for me. That's what made me. I'm fully converted. I'm in on Georgia. I'm all the way in. Like these guys, if they want to score 50 points, they'll score 50 points. And Darnell Washington is some sort of this psycho cheat code where it's essentially tackle over when he's in the game. But it's also, what if we put LeBron James out here and just had him run a streak, right?
Yeah, I think that Georgia showed us that they can flex their experience muscles.
Yes.
This past week. And Coach, you're absolutely right. The been there before factor does make a difference. We've all, even our listeners, if you've played even a high school level football, you know the first time you run in there on varsity or at the college level, the first time you run out there for your first snap, or at the pro level, same thing. From high school on, that first snap, that first game, that first season, you're shaking in your boots. You probably make the wrong read. My first play of my college career, we ran a little zone play. The DN crashed. I could have pulled it, pitched it to our off back that came around for the pitch, and he would have walked 75 yards to the end zone. I was so nervous. I didn't want to make a mistake. I just handed the ball off, and then you settle in. It's the same thing for a team like Tennessee or a team that has not been there before.
Right.
Georgia's sitting there going, man, we've seen this. We've run this a million times. We're fifth-year seniors. Let's run the zone play again. We're going to pull it. We're going to pitch it because we've just been there before. Tennessee is like I was. Hey, there's a lot of pressure. Let's go in there and we're going to play out, but we really just don't know what we don't know. And I think Georgia showed that this week. Now, granted, it was a home game, and they are super talented, but that been there before factor, I think, plays in very nicely this time of the year.
So here's what I'm going to say. The Kenny McIntosh play, first quarter, a minute and like 32 to go. I'm not expecting you guys to know that. I'm reading off these like weird notes that I have. But it's Georgia knowing what you're going to do. Because everybody knows when you're playing cover 3 and then you have one guy to one side, what's that guy doing? He's playing man-to-man essentially. And then you have trips to the other side and you've got your money down, this down, and you know what you're doing. And Georgia's like, oh, if we keep the running back in the backfield and then push him to the wheel, those linebackers have to make a choice, or that whoever's playing curl to flat has to make a choice. And they ran him as a wheel, and it looked like a flare.
Mm-hmm.
And then so he's coming down hard, and then he a little bit inside. Oh, guess what? Oh, you're wide open. You're completely wide open because the corner's gone. There's nobody over you. And it just was like, I was just looking at it like they're being aggressive. You know, you see what I'm saying? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like they're being aggressive, and they're making choices based on knowing the tendencies and understanding what's happening. And I do think Georgia is slowly living in the Alabama world of understanding tendency. And I think that's a huge step for them to take. Am I, like, you guys tell me if I'm crazy. Coach, what do you?
No, I think in that same realm, I think they're figuring out or starting to figure out who they really are, right?
Yeah.
And what they can do. What's Stetson Bennett? Because, you know, let's be honest, early in the year, offensively, like, who are they?
Right.
You have arguably, you know, and it's different.
Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey is who they were.
The two best tight ends in maybe in the NFC Central, right? Those guys, right? No, seriously, right?
Yeah.
You know, these guys are ridiculous, right? But
yeah,
who has guys like that on any football team that are tight ends of that caliber? You got to figure out how to use that, right? How to use both of them because they're freaks. I mean, complete freaks in on a football field to either block, throw the ball, do whatever. And so that is just not a normal thing to have two guys running around like that are tight ends. You've got wideouts, you got running backs, but you got to get those guys the ball. And to figure that out is not easy. And so I think they have started to find out what those guys can do, either as players that are primary, or because they've established themselves as such great players and such great talents, what they can do to attract their own defense and create openings for everybody else. So that's not easy to do, and I think they figured that out right now.
Let me ask you something. You think Kirby is loosened up with Monken and letting Monken do a little bit more?
I don't know that that's the case. I mean, he's a great coach. I'm just saying, you know, from a play calling standpoint, you got to figure out what are you going to do with those guys, right?
Okay.
You got two great tight ends, but who else has that in the history of, you know, really football right now? I mean, two guys that may be the best at their position in the country. Okay, so you know, we got to get them both on the field. But now, how do we use them? Do we flex them? Do we put them in here? We put them in the back. That takes time, right? And then based on the defense and what you said, now we're able to attack and use them in a lot of different ways. Because hey, if those two guys are on the field, because of our running game, because of the size, you're going to get a lot.
You got to go heavy. You got to go heavy package.
Right? A lot of single high, and then now. You create one-on-ones on the outside. It's you know, but that takes time to figure that out, right? And you have to create respect for those players. If you don't get them the ball, you know, or do certain things for them, then guess what? You're going to get different defense. So I think, you know, Todd he's a great coach, and I think it's just taking some time for them to figure out who they are offensively and with all the talent that they have.
Trevor, I want to, like, as a quarterback. I mean, let's just start with what Coach Sumlin just said. As a quarterback, if you're going to play 12 personnel and you have two of the best tight ends in the country, you know that they still, especially blocking tight ends, you know they got to go base people, right? Mm-hmm. What does that do to you mentally?
Well, you know, just because they're in 12 doesn't mean it's always base looks on the other side, right? It may be base personnel, but it's not always base looks because they're moving this guy all over the field. You're going to get all the looks that you would typically get. I will say this. In the college rankings, the college level, this is where coaching comes up to Coach Sumlin's point. It takes a coaching staff to go all in with their personnel to put those guys in the best position possible to succeed. You got 2 big-time tight ends. You got to figure out maybe not a whole new offense, but dang near a whole new offense. Maybe it's something that you've never called before because you know those are the best guys on the field. As a quarterback, as a tight end, as any player, outside of like Case Keenum, who I know that Coach Sumlin gave the reins to call some of his own plays because that would do was just a freak mentally at the college level. Most college players, even at quarterback, are taking the plan from the sidelines and they're executing based on the confidence that that coach has in the aggression and in the play call. So they're just out there trying to execute, watching the film, repping it in practice, executing. It really is up to the coaching staff to develop that plan around the personnel that they have. And that's a lot of work to do. That's countless hours in the film room. That's countless hours yelling at each other across a board table saying, oh, this will work or that'll work. And then being just being really a visionary of how are we going to attack different defenses? What look are we going to get to this? How can Brock get leverage there? How can we get another guy leverage off of Brock here? So on and so forth. Straight coaching.